Welcome to Yokuchi aquascaping channel. In today's episode we will discuss the topic of proper tank fertilization and our innovative method of fertilizing, which is GROWTHIVE EXCELLENT NUTRITION. Also, I will tell you a little about the fertilizing line, so I have a pleasure to invite you to watch this movie carefully. Planted aquariums constantly delight us with their beauty. Maintaining good condition tanks requires proper care so that plants can develop properly. One of the key elements of maintaining healthy plants is proper fertilization. Currently, several fertilization methods are known, but GROWTHIVE EXCELLENT NUTRITION as a fertilizing method is distinguished by comprehensive approach to plant physiology, providing many benefits for the entire aquarium. The health of plants directly affects the functioning of our aquarium. Nutrient imbalance can lead to slowed plant growth and the appearance of various algae. Now let's say a few words about the current methods of fertilizing aquarium. First method is PMDD, Poor Man's Dosing Drops method. The main goal is to provide essential nutrients while limiting the amount of phosphates. This method is especially recommended for low-tech aquariums, where we do not supply CO2. In short, we dose everything without phosphate, the lack of which limits the demand of CO2. The second one is Estimate Indexed. Briefly describing it, we dose everything including phosphates and maintain a constant and stable CO2 level, which is one of the most important parameters here. Over the years, we have used both methods in our aquariums to try to obtain beautiful and healthy plants. At the time, fertilization was modified as various building components for plants. In the long run, plants have always shown some difficulty in growth. The aquariums were stable, with no major signs of algae, but the plants behave as something was bothering them. The most common signs were rotting and holes in the leaves and stems falling apart from the bottom to the top. Despite the problems, the aquariums looked good, but from the time to time the plants had to be removed, the bottom cut off and the tops were replanted. Water tests showed parameters in the ranges that you can see now on the screen. The aquarium had moments when the plants were in the better condition, followed by a period when their condition got worse. Many years of analysis has led us to conclusion that culminate in the Yokuchi fertilizer line and our GROWTHIVE EXCELLENT NUTRITION method. Looking at the parameters we maintained in these tanks, most people will think that the proportion between the given ingredients are correct. So why, by maintaining the ideal water parameters according to generally available knowledge, are plants unable to look in very good condition in long run? We have three main reasons for that. First one is nitrogen to potassium ratio. The key aspect of GROWTHIVE EXCELLENT NUTRITION method is the ratio of two main macro elements, nitrogen and potassium. This is important to emphasize nitrogen here, not nitrates, NO3. So how do you convert nitrate to nitrogen? Well, it's enough to divide the nitrate level by 4.43. For example, if the nitrate level in the aquarium is 10 ppm, the level of nitrogen as a pure element is 2.27 ppm. Comparing the concentrations of elements in the planted aquarium, we see that the ratio of nitrogen to potassium is over 1 to 3 in favor of potassium. Second is incorrect determination of potassium levels using aquarium tests. All potassium tests available on the market are based on clouding the sample, and then the user determines how much solution is needed so that the point marked on the scale is not visible at the bottom of the test tube. The reading itself is influenced by factors such as lighting in the room, the precision of administering the right amount of liquid, and the fact that each of us will notice the disappearance of the dot in a different time. With this method, it's almost impossible to correctly determine low potassium levels in the test sample. We perform a series of tests using standard aquarium tests for potassium, determining its level visually, photometrically, and using a flame photometer. The level tested with a flame photometer showed the most accurate measurement. We can see that determining low concentrations is very difficult, and they are the key to properly functioning plant aquarium in the long run. First reason is dosing of inappropriate substances. In order to increase the concentration of a given element, we usually perform a test and then dose the missing element to the desired amount. Of course, this is correct, but the problem may be the preparations of substances that the user applies to the aquarium. To increase the concentration of the main macroelements, fertilizers based on salts are most often used, but the dominant ingredient of which is also potassium, for example KNO3 as a source of nitrogen. So what should the level of nitrogen and potassium be in planted aquarium? First, you need to analyze how much of a given ingredient in the dry plant mass. On this basis, we will be able to determine which ingredient the plant needs in a larger quantities. So let's take a look on the list you will see on the screen. Now see some examples of the land plants first, and we managed to find some data about aquatic plants. The similarity in the structure of the carbon and nitrogen content of cultivated plants in relation to aquatic plants suggests that the potassium content will most be likely the proportional. After seeing the data, a clear conclusion can be reached. The main building block of plants, apart from carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, is nitrogen. In almost every case, the nitrogen level in the dry plant matter is higher than the potassium level. The conclusions that arise are simple. In most aquariums, there are a large nitrogen deficiency, which is caused by a pure potassium test result, dosing inappropriate solutions based on salt that increase the potassium level and interpreting the nitrate level as an elemental nitrogen. It should also be remembered that an aquarium is a closed system, so there is no washing out of excess nutrients, as in the case, for example, in the rivers. The effects of too much potassium in relation to nitrogen may include, for example, slower growth, fragmentation of the stem, rotting, especially of older leaves, spots on the leaves that often resemble symptoms of potassium deficiency, and smaller size of the new leaves. The correct balance of ingredients in aquarium should be within the following ranges. Please remember that the level of PO4 phosphates should be appropriate with the level of NO3 nitrates in 10:1 ratio. Many years of observation show that the key issue is not the concentration of elements, but the correct proportion between them. In particular, the proportion between the two main macro elements, nitrogen and potassium. If the levels are low and in the right proportion, the plants will slow down their growth and will show no problem. By maintaining nitrogen and potassium in a proper proportion, we can also limit the amount of phosphorus, which will allow us to keep plants in a very good condition and slower growth for a longer time. In the GROWTHIVE EXCELLENT NUTRITION method, we dose all the ingredients necessary for plants in appropriate proportions, and we can precisely add the ingredient needed to a given moment. Series fertilizers have been designed so that we add the same amount of each. The proportions between them are appropriate. We start fertilization by dosing the standard recommendation dose of 1 ml per 100 liter in the case of 400 ml fertilizers and 1 drop per 5 liter for the Nano series. For tanks with a larger plant amount, it may be necessary to dose a double or in some cases like Dutch-style tanks, even a triple dose. Gene N contains several forms of nitrogen. The content of other elements are minimal and the appropriate proportions are maintained. Gene P contains phosphorus and a small amount of magnesium. Gene K contains potassium in organic form. Please remember that microelements are absorbed when macroelements are in appropriate ratios. So you should first ensure their appropriate balance and then add macroelements. Gene BG contains a complex of microelements necessary for the proper functioning of plants. Gene Fe contains a large dose of iron in two optimal forms, an additional dose of manganese, and the elements are enriched with a hormone that stimulates plants to have a better color. Gene offers plants everything they need without excess or deficiency of any nutrient for their perfect growth. The gene fertilization method is based on the nitrogen to potassium ratio in the range of 1.4 to 1 or 2.2 to 1. The value of this ratio in the gene method has been experimentally determined to be optimal for a planted aquarium. The appropriate balance between nitrogen and potassium stimulates the development of the new leaves, roots, positively influencing to the functioning of the entire tank. Improving the condition of plants translates into the health of the aquarium as a whole ecosystem, which minimizes the risk of algae problems. Aquarium plants not only add charm, but also play an important role in the aquarium ecosystem. Healthy plants oxygenate the substrate through their roots, thanks to which microorganisms help to maintain the stable condition. Perfect balance translates into very good condition of plants in the long run, which translates into no restarting of the aquarium. Introducing the gene fertilizing method to your planted aquarium is the right approach to fertilizing aquatic plants. This method is suitable for aquasoils, gravels and sand. It's a good investment in the plant health, tank aesthetic and overall environmental harmony. Thanks to the precise balance of nutrients, the plant grows beautifully, creating a spectacular underwater landscape. I hope you like this general version. If you are interested in more details of biochemical reactions and more deep information about the tank fertilization, I will leave you a link to an article prepared by our engineers in the video description down below. Hope you like this video. If you do, please click like and subscribe to the Yokuchi aquascaping channel and see you in the next episodes. Bye.